The Island of Red Shadows, Chapter 1, The Wreck. It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. 6 friends, Maya, Jacob, Lila, Drew, Vanessa, and Theo, chartered a private boat to explore the remote archipelagos of the South Pacific. Their last stop was an uninhabited island not marked on any map. It was Jacob who insisted they check it out. "Come on, it'll be our own private paradise," he grinned, clutching a half-rolled treasure map he'd found in a dusty second-hand store in Brisbane. They had been drinking, laughing, dancing on the deck. Then came the storm. A sudden squall, violent and unrelenting, shattered the sky. Their boat capsized within an hour. Rain fell in sheets. Waves, like the fists of giants, pounded the vessel until it snapped like a twig. Screams were swallowed by the roaring sea. Lightning lit up glimpses of something vast and coiled in the waves, though no one dared believe what they saw. When they came to, drenched and bruised, they found themselves on a black sanded beach, littered with debris and soaked luggage. Vanessa's arm was gashed and bleeding, the muscle visible beneath shredded skin. Theo's leg bent at an unnatural angle, bone protruding white through his skin. He whimpered and then vomited from the pain. "That bone's gotta be set," Maya said. "We need shelter." The island was silent. No birds, no bugs, Theo muttered through gritted teeth. "That's not right." The jungle loomed before them, dark and still. The trees twisted like broken limbs, their trunks covered in a sticky black moss. From within, the wind whispered in voices too hushed to understand. They had no idea that something had already seen them. Chapter 2. Signs and Symbols. The deeper they went into the jungle, the more the trees closed in, gnarled like fingers clawing at the sky. Old statues with hollow eyes stood amid the trees, their mouths open as if screaming. They passed cracked bones tied with vines and dangling from branches like wind chimes. A foul smell clung to the leaves. Every few feet, they passed markings carved into trees, bloody spirals and bone-white handprints. Fresh blood, not dry. Vanessa gagged. They stumbled on a severed animal carcass, a boar, its body splayed open, entrails carefully arranged in the same spiral pattern. Maggots writhed inside the intestines, which pulsed unnaturally. "We need to signal for help," Lila said, clutching Drew's arm. Maybe the boat's radio survived. They returned to the wreckage. The radio was smashed. Food was scarce. Night fell quickly, and the temperature plummeted. The wind carried with it a wet, rotting smell. Around the fire, Vanessa whispered, "I saw someone, in the trees, watching us. Tall, pale, smiling. No one slept." In the dark, something breathed, slow and raspy, just beyond the edge of their firelight. A twig snapped, and then silence. Chapter 3. The Villagers. At dawn, they heard the drums. Faint at first, then louder, rhythmic, primal. From the jungle emerged figures, half-naked, painted in red clay and black ash. Their eyes were white as pearls, their mouths stained crimson as if they'd been gnawing raw flesh. They moved in unison without a word, surrounding the camp. "Don't move," Maya whispered. One stepped forward, elderly and hunched, wearing a necklace of teeth and dried fingers. Her skin was flaking, her eyes milky. She extended a gnarled hand to Maya and touched her forehead, smearing ash across it. Then she turned and disappeared into the trees. "That was a warning," Theo said. "We're not just trespassers, we're offerings." They ran. Vanessa stumbled, and one of the villagers lunged toward her, tearing a strip of flesh from her calf with sharpened nails. She howled in pain, blood pouring into the soil. A villager licked the blood off their fingers before slinking back into the shadows. Chapter 4. The pit inland, they found what looked like an altar. The stone platform was stained with dried blood. Around it were dozens of human skulls, arranged in spirals, just like the trees. A pit behind the altar held more than bones, rotting limbs, hollowed torsos, empty eye sockets still wet with decay. Something in the pit moved, slowly, watching. Drew fell to his knees. This is a sacrificial sight. A child's skull still had tufts of blonde hair. Behind them, the villagers closed in. They dragged Lila away. The others screamed, fought, but were overwhelmed. One of them bit into Theo's shoulder, tearing away a chunk of flesh. Blood sprayed across the altar stones. Theo shrieked and kicked blindly as his vision blurred. The villagers vanished into the jungle, taking Lila with them. Her screams echoed until the jungle swallowed them whole. Chapter 5. The monster night, again. But this time they didn't dare make a fire. Hidden beneath a thicket, they listened to the drumming. Then it stopped. A howl split the silence, low, deep, not human. Jacob peered through the leaves and screamed. Something enormous lumbered into the clearing, 8 feet tall, covered in matted hair and filth. Its face was hidden behind a mask made of stitched-together human skin. Its eyes glowed through the sockets, bright and inhuman. In one hand, it held a massive stone axe, the blade chipped and bloodstained. It sniffed the air, then bellowed. The villagers chanted, a ceremony, sacrifice. Lila was on the altar, wrists bound, mouth gagged with vines. Her eyes screamed for help. The monster sniffed her, its clawed hand brushing her cheek. It purred, a sound worse than any growl. The monster raised its axe. Chapter 6. Blood and Fire. They couldn't leave her. Drew and Maya crept through the underbrush, while Theo and Jacob circled wide. Vanessa stayed behind, trembling, pressing gauze made from torn clothing against her bleeding leg. As the chanting rose, Maya threw a rock into the trees. The villagers turned. Chaos erupted. Jacob charged with a sharpened branch. Theo swung a torch. Drew cut Lila free. The monster roared and struck down Jacob with one blow, cleaving through bone and brain. His skull split like a melon. Blood geysered across the altar. Lila screamed. Theo was grabbed by villagers, dragged away into the dark. One of them gnawed his ear off as he shrieked. Vanessa crawled forward and threw a bottle of alcohol they'd salvaged into the fire. It exploded in a fireball, blinding the attackers for seconds, just enough to escape. They ran through trees that whispered. They ran over ground that pulsed beneath their feet. Jacob's body was left behind, but not untouched. The monster began peeling away his skin, slowly, delicately. Chapter 7. Escape. At the far end of the island, they found a cave with remnants of a crashed military plane. Inside, rusted guns, old rations, and a flare gun. A torn logbook showed the last pilot wrote, "They're in the trees. They feed it with blood. It wears the skins of the dead." "We shoot the beast," Drew said, then signal for help. Night again. The monster came. It stormed the cave, knocking Vanessa aside. Her head cracked against a rock and she went limp. Drew shot. Once. Twice. The bullets buried in its chest, but it didn't even flinch. Maya grabbed the flare gun. "Come get me, you freak!" She fired. The flare exploded into its face, igniting the mask. The monster screamed, flailing blindly, knocking over a fuel can. Fire engulfed it. It thrashed, dragging its own claws across its face, tearing away, burning flesh. Beneath the mask, no face, only a pit. A mouth that never closed. Rows of teeth spiraling inward. The villagers watched from the trees, unmoving. One of them dropped to their knees and began cutting their own throat in worship. Chapter 8, Red Shadows. By morning, the fire had burned out. The monster's charred corpse lay still. The villagers were gone. A trail of scorched earth led from the altar to the pit. A passing cargo ship spotted the smoke. The survivors, Maya, Lila, Drew, and a barely breathing Vanessa, were rescued. But the island stayed behind them. So did Jacob and Theo. Years later, Maya dreams of the red spirals. Sometimes she wakes with sand in her sheets. Sometimes she wakes to the smell of burning skin. She wakes with ash on her forehead. Sometimes she swears she hears Jacob screaming from beneath her floorboards. Sometimes she hears his voice behind her eyes. Chapter 9, The Whispering Fog. Maya thought she'd left it all behind, but the dreams didn't stop. Red spirals, screaming statues, the drumming. Every night, the fog in her dreams thickened. Until one morning, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a stone figurine covered in ash. Its face looked exactly like the mask the monster had worn. The news that week reported a ship that went missing near the same region. She called Drew. He hadn't slept in days. "I hear the drums again, Maya," he whispered. "They're coming." He hung up. 2 days later, he vanished. A neighbor reported hearing chanting from inside his apartment, though no one was ever found. Chapter 10, The Return. They had to go back. It wasn't guilt. It was something deeper. Something pulling them. A voice in the fire. Whispers in the fog. Blood in the mirror. Drew, Maya, and Lila hired a new crew, one that didn't ask questions. Vanessa declined. She'd been institutionalized weeks before, her arms covered in spiral carvings she'd made with her own fingernails. When they reached the coordinates, the island was gone. No landmass, no black beach, just fog. And then the boat died. No engine, no radio. Only drums in the distance. A shape emerged from the mist. It wore Jacob's skin. They were never seen again. But the drums never stopped. And now the fog has reached the shore.